Did you know that there's a new charitable tax deduction? This means that you can save money by donating to charity and make your dollar go further by giving back to your community. If half of all DMV married couples who don't itemize fully use this new deduction, we would raise $1 billion for local nonprofits. Spur Local's Everyday Giving Pledge is a simple commitment you can make today to give more and give at least half of your donations to local nonprofits. Visit everydaygivingpledge.org to learn more. Have you been to the Library of Congress? If not, Thursdays are the perfect time to visit. Join them after hours for Live at the Library, where cocktails in the iconic Thomas Jefferson Building meets live music, author talks, crafting, exhibits, and more. Every week is different, free, and inspired by the library's collections. Don't miss their Summer Movies on the Lawn, screenings of pop classics from the National Film Registry, starting July 9th with Clueless. Plan your next night out. Visit loc.gov/live. Today on CityCast DC, we're talking about the 4th of July in DC. We're going to talk about the city budget, and we're talking about a couple of new DC museums. Plus, in a members-only fourth segment, makeup, specifically how DC's likely next mayor managed to get through Election Day. It's actually a really interesting story. I'm here with CityCast Ben Brash and Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. I'm also going to talk with our Emma Uber during that fourth segment. It's Friday, June 26th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC's talking about. Hey, Ben.
How's it going?
Welcome. Your first time on the pod.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, Kayla.
Hi, Mike.
So, Kayla, when we're recording, it's Thursday. You're about to head out to the Great American State Fair. What food are you going to eat? What are you most looking forward to?
Yes, I've been thinking about this quite a lot. I'm a huge fan of all the classics, obviously. I have to say, though, I never eat corn dogs except for at a state fair. So I think that might be like one of my favorite state fair foods. That's a little bit basic, but...
What percentage of American corn dogs do you think are eaten at state fairs?
A lot. Can't give you the numbers on that exactly, though. What about you guys? What are your favorites?
I'm a little sicko. I'm into the fried Oreo situation. Go big or go home.
No. That's too much.
Yeah.
That's where I draw the line. A fried hot dog is one thing, but...
A fried hot dog and corn batter, that's one thing. But an Oreo, I mean, that's just ridiculous.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to eating some Bub and Pop's sandwiches at the Great American State Fair, but it turns out, having announced that this beloved longtime DC downtown sandwich chain is going to be a vendor at the Great American State Fair, they forgot to check with Bub and Pop's, who apparently wanted nothing to do with it, and scrambled to make sure that people didn't associate them with this activity.
Sorry, Bub.
You can still buy their sandwiches downtown without actually having to go onto the mall. So let's talk about the 4th of July, far end of this Great American State Fair. I remember going downtown to watch fireworks as a kid. It was kind of chaos. There was, drunk people and people waiting in the reflecting pool and people lighting off their own fireworks, and it all seemed pretty dangerous. Over the years, as with everything else in America, it sort of got more professionally managed and safe and less chaotic. This year, as the Trump administration promises the greatest fireworks show in history, it's the weird thing is, I don't know if anyone's going to actually be able to go down there. There's a map of what areas are pedestrian restricted, and it includes huge parts of where people used to picnic, like the reflecting pool, a lot of the mall. You have to go through metal detectors and show IDs, and there's no coolers allowed, so forget the picnics, people, and no backpacks, and a clear bag policy, and I found an old picture of myself holding a ball, we were playing ball on the picnic during the fireworks. No balls allowed, kind of no fun allowed. And I am curious, I don't know what you guys think of ultimately, it's the National 4th of July celebration, and Trump is, about the country, but the people on the ground are more likely than not going to be people who live around here. And is the schlep going to turn people off and the sense of security, in addition to all the stuff people always talk about, like politics?
I think I was so bummed. One of my favorite hacks for the 4th of July is to kayak out onto the Potomac by Georgetown to watch the fireworks. You can get like such a good view, but that's not happening this year. I'm so pissed. So yeah, I think it's going to be super different. And it seems like it's mainly designed maybe for tourists or people coming in from out of town.
There's a whole other side of this, which is, oh, it's more secure, so now I am going to go. Most of the time, those people are just saying that and they actually don't go because the initial concern they had is probably still lingering in their head because they're afraid of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a different vibe. Mike, I am glad you brought up that picture. That fit went crazy. You looked so cool as a kid. Do you have any of those clothes left? Do you think you could fit into them? Do we know where we are with that?
I think they've shrunk over the years. Still have some Orioles shirts. You know, in those days, I was an obsessive Baltimore Orioles fan, which was who you rooted for if you were in D.C. pre-Nats. So I was wearing a beloved Orioles shirt in that picture. But I found, like last year, I scanned a bunch of my mom's old slides, and they were always 4th of July pictures, and it was always, kind of the same thing. But the sense of like, this is not professionally run nor necessarily safe, really pervades those pictures, and that's not the case. That's not the case now. I just have a feeling. I mean, like, okay, it's the 250th of the country, and people are making a big deal of it. I've never thought of the 4th of July as like a traveling holiday, like that. Oh, I'm really, I'm going to go see the fireworks in Kansas City. I hear they're really amazing. That people, stick around their hometown and have a parade and things like that. Obviously, it's a huge country. There's 350 million people out there, and if 0.01% of them decide they're going to visit Washington for the 4th of July, that's a big crowd. So I don't know how much it matters, but I can't, other than for professional reasons, I can't imagine wanting to schlep my family down there. And this has nothing to do with the politics and people accusing Trump of hijacking the thing. The other thing is the fireworks, it's going to go on much longer, but it's also starting much later, like 10:30. That's like bedtime, people.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's literally not going to be over until after 11.
I would say,
which is disturbing.
I'm going to take the over.
I don't know why. I wonder why they did that, because it's dark well before then.
I remember my first year in DC. I moved like just before 4th of July. And so, I'd been here like less than a month, and me and my wife and some friends and my in-laws who were in town helping us move went to the Washington Monument to see the fireworks. And it was so amazing. And then equally an amazing display of humanity were the hordes of people crowding to the L'Enfant station and just like jamming up those escalators. So if it's any more busy, I cannot visualize that. It's the transportation, the way back home. It's like, it's always fun going to an event, but leaving an event is like just a nightmare. And later people are going to be, more drunk, more tired, more, angry. It's just going to be
more drunk? Where are they going to get the booze? You're not allowed to bring it in.
I believe in the ingenuity of the American spirit, and I believe in us as a nation.
Yeah, I think, Mike, also maybe, you grew up here, so you're a little spoiled, but I do think the draw of the fireworks is huge. Like, I mean, my grandmother who lives in rural New Hampshire watches the fireworks on TV every single year. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you get to go to those every single year. And so I think there's like some big, like patriotic, like ideal of these fireworks that really draws people, even though a lot of the time it's just a lot of smoke in the air. But, I think growing up here, it's maybe, and living here, it's easy to see that as more of a nuisance.
Yeah, and I think, in general, the like securitization of America has proceeded apace. So I may be overestimating how annoyed people are by metal detectors and lines and ID checks and stuff. But I just think that the potential of it being like not that pleasant an experience seems fairly high to me. But what do I know? The state fair lasts until right after the 4th of July. What should people expect from that? I know it's just opening.
Yeah, so the state fair, obviously you have the Ferris wheel, which is the big draw. And then the other part of it that I'm most excited about is the food. And it's honestly, I'm going down in a few hours, and I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not sure what to expect. There's going to be obviously all of your classics, your corn dogs, your pizza, your fried dough, and then there's going to be Italian and other global fairs, you know, but I don't really know what that's going to look like. And then there's also a few smaller local vendors that are also getting in on the game. Lucky Buns, Chop Shop, Get Baked Pretzels. So it's really kind of runs the gamut. And I'm not entirely sure how the kitchens and the back ends of those are working, but I imagine most of it is shared. So I'm curious how they're going to come up with all of these different things.
I mean, one of the things I worried about is the safety of it all. When they did the UFC fight, the Trump administration said we're not going to go through the DC, I don't know what it's called now, the Boxing Commission, the Combat Sports Commission, which is like the body that is supposed to like regulate fights for safety, saying that because it's on federal property, it's not subject to DC regs. And we were really worried about the Ferris wheel because, like, let's face it, it's not been a great run for organizers of things on the mall, between the algae in the pool and the announcing a bunch of concert acts who are either didn't know they were being announced or bailed out immediately. Our colleague Jackie Pizer actually made some calls, and it turns out that they have asked the DC relevant inspectors to check the Ferris wheel. So there is somebody, not on the payroll of this organization who is making sure the bolts are bolted and things like that.
That is very comforting. I'm so glad you did
but
that.
I can't mention the food inspection.
If you like regulations, there you go. That way you don't get an upset tummy and you don't tumble off a Ferris wheel. For posterity, Kayla, what breakfast did you have before going to try a lot of fair food on a hot afternoon?
You know what, Ben? I actually haven't eaten breakfast yet, and that's an excellent question. I should probably eat something. I'm thinking some carbs, to like soak up some of the oil. Does that seem like a good strategy? I don't know. Or should I just eat? Maybe I should just go down cold turkey.
I would have, and thank you for asking, I would have something light on my stomach that my body would appreciate. I'm maybe thinking like a Greek yogurt with granola situation.
You're so smart. You're so smart. This is why we hired you.
Yep, that's right. That's what they pay me for.
Don't miss Folger Theater's How Shakespeare Saved My Life, playing now through July 5th at Folger Shakespeare Library. The autobiographical solo comedy by Broadway star Jacob Ming Trent has been called a vivid, deeply personal narrative about survival, resilience, and the transformative power of language by stage and cinema. Born with a gift for poetry but rejected as unfit to play the part of a poet, Ming Trent invites us to take a deep dive into the crevices of his youth. Calling on the bard and a host of genius rappers, half-crazed preachers, and soulful poets, he takes us on a propulsive ride that reaffirms the power of language and music. Folger Theater delivers yet again, says the Washington lobbyist. Go see it, bring a friend, talk about it after. Tickets start at $20 and can be purchased online at folger.edu or by phone at 202-544-7077, Tuesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Get yours today. All right, Ben, you spent Tuesday in the Wilson Building, which is DC's City Hall. First day on the beat. Usually these things run very, very long. It actually didn't, but to set it up, the DC Council is voting on the budget. It's, an annual thing they got to do. The mayor had proposed a budget with a lot of cuts. Council members, like anyone else in elected office, do not like cutting things. What wound up happening?
So what happened was, like you said, Mayor Bowser proposed a budget with a lot of cuts, and the council dug into the coffers, the reserves, the rainy day fund of the city. And the dramatic part on Tuesday was a couple days preceding, there was talk of it, and then actually happened on Tuesday for the final vote. They took $150 million from the rainy day fund to fund a lot of programs they were passionate about. In the hundreds of millions of cuts that Mayor Bowser proposed, childcare, healthcare, housing vouchers, all those sorts of things that the activists before the meeting said, this is a matter of life or death for us. $90, $120, $150. These things make a big difference, especially as families are struggling mightily in DC. And so council seemed to hear that, and they took $150 million from the rainy fund to the dismay of some in the Wilson Building.
Well, and one of those dismayed people is the chief financial officer of DC, which sounds like a sort of bureaucratic position, but it's actually one which is loaded with history. The city essentially went broke in the 90s. And as part of the rescue package from Congress, basically the city government, Barry was the mayor then, had to go sort of throw themselves on the mercy of Newt Gingrich. And among the reforms was creating this office of chief financial officer who has to like certify that the city's budget is balanced and responsible. And and it is an independent office. It can't be fired. The mayor appoints them, but like once, I'm sure he can be fired if he's like caught stealing from the tip jar or something. And he has said, like, you guys cannot or should not take from this rainy day fund. It's irresponsible. It's dangerous. The city is facing, money coming in is really shrinking because some people have lost their jobs and so on. And council said, no, we think it's responsible. We think this is the right thing to do. And so even though they passed a budget, this is still an open question. Like he could say you're out of balance. What exactly that means legally, we don't know because it's never been tested. But that seems like it's, this is going to be the kind of tension point of the next few months. And it's one with a really big deal if you live here because it's going to affect your taxes and the solvency of your city and city's ability to borrow money, which will in turn affect your taxes and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a problem for a while. And I mean, just to kind of like rewind a bit, this stems to the agita caused by the $1.1 billion gap that suddenly was in the district's budget. So we have all this concern because of, congressional actions. So we have all this concern about this big gap of money. And we have these elected folks who, interestingly, just like a week after an election are making this decision. So it's like not exactly tied into the electoral. So that's a whole other thing. But you have them making this decision, hey, we're going to take, from the rainy day fund, $150 million for a lot of social programs. The CFO says it would be, quote, imprudent and would leave the budget unbalanced, which is like kind of a scary word because of the legislation you talk about decades ago that was trying to right the ship financially for the district. So then what we're left with is a CFO of, if he was hauled before Congress, and say, hey, is this a good budget? He would say, I don't think so, which is a scary place to be in when you are trying to, portray a legitimate statehood argument, or where you're trying to say that, no, we're all right, we're okay, we can handle our business. And whether he being the CFO, wants to go before Congress proactively and kind of raise the flag, that creates, other obvious political issues for people who are very willing to meddle in the affairs of these hundreds of square miles.
One of the parts I'm most interested in, Ben, that I'm saying is they're dedicating almost $500,000 to rat-resistant trash cans. And that's something that is, I feel like, been on a lot of people's minds. I'm curious, is that ever been part of the budget before?
There's been a lot of rat remediation. What a tough one. There's been a lot of rat remediation funding in the past, for sure. Rat czar, all that stuff. One of the council members said, we know it's a problem. Help is on its way. Assistance is coming.
Help is on its way.
Yeah, help is on its way. I know we are trying to stem the tide of the rats.
I live in Adams Morgan, so rats are constantly on my mind and my feet, honestly.
Hate that, but that's so real as a former Adams Morgan resident. Yes, can confirm.
There was a situation when the city threw itself on Congress's mercy where they created a so-called control board. Just a bunch of appointed people who oversaw the city, and they hired a city manager, and they effectively took over for our elected officials to run the government. And that law is still in the books. It's now dormant because the city proved its financial stability. But in theory, it could come back. And this thing about the balanced budget is sort of between these two dudes. Phil Mendelson, he's the longtime chairman of the city council, and Glenn Lee, he's the CFO. Who are they? And there's some bad blood here, as I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, the point of an elected official is to be there for the people, and you need to find money to be able to do so. And the job of a CFO is to maintain the long-term stability of any area that they're covering. So, I want to give the moon to my residents who happen to elect me, and then I want to make sure that we're okay financially. Can sometimes be in conflict, but like that's the whole point of a democracy is you set up people who are in conflict to try and come out with a nice little compromise. The idea of the council getting what they want and then the CFO being happy, that's going to be in conflict unless you overtax your residents and then you don't get elected anyway. That's the third, part of this melange. You have Mendelsohn saying, I think we're going to be fine. We are going to be okay financially. Any money that we take, it's written into the budget. That money, the first 150 million is going to go right back into our rainy day fund. And then any extra we get is going to go to these programs as well. So it's even, bookmarked further beyond that 150. And Mendelsohn says, look, our ability to borrow money on the bond market, no one needs like a bond lesson, very early in the morning as you're making your coffee.
No, we want one. Kayla's going to the Great American State Fair. She's going to need to discuss bond policy when she gets there.
Okay, great. So yeah, the thing about muni bonds that you got, no. So I'll save Kayla from that.
Please.
So the point of this is, you have to show you're on a good enough financial standing to be able to borrow money on the open market. You're given a rating to say, hey, here's how legit you are. That rating is impacted by a ton of things, including your long-term stability outlook. So as Mendelsohn is saying in his letter back to Lee, the thing that's really going to impact us is our congressional interaction, as if to kind of preempt the argument to say, like, if I'm tea leaf reading here, hey, don't say anything to Congress. Thank you very much. Their ability to mess with our affairs is what makes us vulnerable and is what affects our bond rating, which the city's bond rating is so much better than it was decades ago, as you feel well know, Mike. So that's, again, the most cursory idea of how muni bonds work.
But also just, and again, I don't want to go too geeky. I guess I have already. So Glenn Lee, the CFO, writes this letter saying, don't do this, finger wagging. And the chairman of the city council, that's the official title, he writes back and says, we don't believe you got the authority to stop us. In addition to saying, like, we think we're being responsible and so on. So that's the other sort of open question that is like to be adjudicated somewhere, maybe in court, maybe in a hearing, maybe, I don't know.
Yes, that is an open question, and it's like I can't imagine a bigger one. Is who has the authority to decide policy decisions? In Mendelsohn's letter, he italicized the word policy as if to give it extra emphasis. This is a policy decision. We are deciding policy, and he says, "You're not a policy person. That's me. So this is my decision. This is the council's decision. Thank you very much."
So was he suggesting that Glenn Lee would have been cool with spending this $150 million if they had done it on a different priority, a different policy?
That's a great political question. I don't know. I would love to sit down and have an hour and a half coffee with Glenn Lee. I'm going to propose just that, and I won't hold my breath. But the idea that it's the meta argument of like, this is my lane and you should stay in yours. And then what happens when people, paint the lines on those lanes? That's politics.
So Kayla, in the last week or so, you've published two things on new museums in DC. One of them is like a really old museum. Or actually, both of them have lineages here. But I'm really into the Undercroft, because it sounds like a goth movie or something.
Sounds so gothic, yeah, and it is gothic. It looks that way. It looks exactly how you think it would look. It's essentially this place underneath the Lincoln Memorial. They had to, when they first built the memorial, they had to build out this undercroft under it, which is like 122 like massive concrete pillars that stabilized the marshland to prevent the monument from sinking, because they were worried it was going to sink because it was so heavy. And so essentially throughout the years, there have been, tours given of the space. Those didn't work out. They found sort of asbestos and other, air quality concerns. But recently, they've built out part of it as a museum. So if you are looking at the Lincoln Memorial and you look sort of to the base at the right, you'll see this door. And if you go through that door, you'll be under the memorial itself in the Undercroft. And there's basically this sort of maze of dark tunnels, essentially, holding all of these interesting artifacts from both the making of the monuments and, alternative designs, the random Lincoln artifacts. And also there's the Emancipation Proclamation, the original, which is incredibly cool to see. And obviously, because it's on the National Mall, it's part of the National Park Service here. It's all free. So you can just go in at your leisure.
Or, do you have to get like reserved passes?
You can get free tickets the day of, or you can buy them online in advance. And to buy them online in advance, you need to pay $1 as a reservation fee, apparently. But I will warn, the first couple weeks are pretty sold out. So if you want to go, I do definitely recommend doing it online because you might not be able to get them in person. But it's really cool. It's nice and cold down there, which was my favorite part. That part of the National Mall is so brutal. It's all sun. There's nowhere to go inside. I'm always super grumpy, but it's cold, it's dark, there's nice bathrooms, and it's a really nice refuge, I think, on that side of the National Mall.
So this is the one part where it's bad if you're an allergy because it's not like nice and warm. Is that my understanding?
I guess so.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. I didn't see a single algae down there when I was there.
Wait, how do you get there?
You just go in through the right side of the bottom of the Lincoln Memorial. There's it almost looks like a service door or something. And you just go through and there's security and then you're in. And they have projections inside the Undercroft, and it probably only takes about half an hour to an hour to go through the whole thing, I would say. The other really cool part is that they found graffiti done by the original workers that made the Undercroft, and they've sort of blown that up in different areas so that you can see little scribblings from over 100 years ago.
What was happening down there for the last 100 years?
Yeah, we'll never know, Mike. We'll never know. No, a few decades ago.
Space, and then they decided, hey, this would be cool to make a museum in.
Yeah, it was totally unused. You look at the old pictures and it's terrifying. It looks like this cavernous cave. There's stalactites and stalagmites. There's all this old graffiti. It's pitch black, obviously. And there was a brief period in the 80s where they did do tours, but that fell apart pretty quickly because of safety concerns.
Could you fit a ballroom down there?
I think if you're okay with having a lot of pillars in your ballroom, then absolutely, yes.
Yeah, most parties have a lot of pillars in them that are going to be the ballroom anyway.
So true. Honestly, it would be a crazy underground party space.
I think that should be a rave scene. I think that there should
somebody
be
should get on that.
NPS sponsored rave down in the Undercroft. Go crazy.
$60 million and you're good.
The other thing you visited, and I was really interested in this because it was the National Geographic Museum, which has long existed in Washington, but it closed a few years ago for repairs. And the thing of the National Geographic Society, or all geographic societies, is, at least to me, they evoke white people in the 1800s with pith helmets going out and taking notes on the natives. And it's stuff that's a little bit harder to sell here in 2026. And the word explorer, particularly, I always think of as again, some white dude who goes and discovers a bunch of people who didn't need discovering because they already knew they were there. But they've really leaned into this word.
Totally. The explorers are their whole brand. And we actually met several explorers on the press preview day that would talk about their work. And it was fascinating. I think they're leaning really hard into the nature and conservatism aspect of what they do. I think a lot of the exhibits are around habitat rehabilitation or endangered species, and a lot of the work from the explorers that they're putting out there seems to be quite, I would say, as neutral as possible. It's quite nonpartisan. It's quite difficult to argue with. And they do have over 300 explorers, right? So they have explorers around every part of the world doing every type of topic, and they really make sure to let you know that.
But what are some of the explorers? What are they exploring?
anything, everything. They, you have everybody from, archaeologists who are doing your like classic Indiana Jones, like dusting off tombs. They have people who are working with, endangered species in the cloud forest. They have people that are tracking, water movements or crane movements and seeing where the healthy water in areas are, or tracking lions so that they don't attack small villages. All sorts of things. Honestly, I think you could kind of pitch anything.
And these explorers are like real human being people. They are there to talk to you?
Yes. So they had, I think, 5 there that day, and they are not going to be there every single day. So you can't expect to just see them if you buy a ticket, but they do have all of these programmings with their explorers. Like they have coffee chats and cocktail chats and lecture series and all of this that you can buy tickets for. I think it's usually like $10 to $40 to learn about their work and hear them talk. And of course, all of the work that is displayed in the museum itself comes from those explorers, right? So you're seeing, classic photos that were taken by, Nat Geo explorers and photographers and journalists. And I think one of the main exhibits in this space is also done by an explorer. It's on like taking pictures of endangered species and sort of blowing them up and in a way that makes even little insects feel very important.
Can I ask you about the explorers? Like, if you saw them, like at Union Market or walking down the mall or something, would you be able to tell they were explorers, or do they just look like
No, I think they just look like people. I think they just look like people. There was one guy who's he actually discovered the Titanic on the ocean floor, and I would say he was the only one that I was like, you look like an old school explorer. But I think that was probably just because he was wearing a wide brimmed hat, and that to me screams Indiana Jones. So but yes, have either of you been to the old museum on M Street there? Yeah,
I have not.
I can't overstate how different it is. Like that one was dark and small and really not a huge draw, I would say. This one is massive. It's massive. It's stuffed full of like technology and glass windows and projection screens and gorgeous wood paneling. It is a beautiful space. Tickets are $30 and it opens on June 26th. And $30 is a lot to spend on a museum, I think.
And you pay in gold doubloons.
It's just like we're so spoiled. We're not used to spending money on museums. It's really a tough pill to swallow. I do recommend going once. They have a food hall in there that you can get a cocktail. It is really interesting, and you can see some of these photos in real life that are like legendary, like things that you've seen your whole life and you just never knew any of the history behind it. That's kind of what I took away from it the most. But yeah, I'd check it out once, spend the $30 or maybe go for an event, they're going to do a lot of programming.
I'm one of those spoiled Washingtonians that when someone tries to make me pay to go into a museum,
I know.
What do you think we are?
I know. And especially I thought they were going to have a lot more public programming, but a lot of it, while it is, open to the public, you do have to pay for it, right? So like these lecture series and stuff like that, they're ticketed. They have some concerts, again, that are ticketed, trivia, stuff like this. It all has like a minor cost involved, but you can use their beautiful courtyard for free if you like. And they are also going to have a farmer's market there, which is free, obviously. So it's one way to check it out if you really don't want to pay the $30.
All right, Kayla, let's go meet for one of them cocktails.
Okay, let's go.
Ben, join us too.
Oh, thanks for having.
Thanks. If we're feeling less ambitious, we could just go to the farmer's market.
That works for me.
All right, I want to give a big thank you to our members for your support today. Paid subscribers, those members, get a bonus 4th roundup interview. I'm going to talk with my colleague, CityCast's Emma Uber. We're going to talk about Janice Lewis George's Glam specialist. If you want to be sure you always get the full episode, please become a member. Head to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. It's only $10 a month. Members get ad-free listening, exclusive members events, and an extra events newsletter every week. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Annie Reese, Julia Karen, and Lizzie Goldsmith. Check out all of our newsletters and all of our reporting at dc.citycast.fm. Our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Rue Walker and Philip Ayers from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, tell the explorer in your life about it, and hopefully they will spread the word far and wide. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.